This video chronicles life in a small Midwest town, Venice, Illinois. What you see is just a small sample from 4 full DVDs. Often turn corners that take us far away from somewhere. This may be our own Ulysses or Beowulf story, often lost, often searching, always wandering into a distant land. In those days when most of us walked freely and safely along Broadway, either during the daylight or evening hours, we could both see and hear the trumpet of Venice, the curfew siren every night at 9 p.m. There was no one that misunderstood either the time or the meaning. Many folks use this to set their mantle clocks and wrist watches for the coming morning. It was a constant reminder of work, school, or church the next day, the close of the evening, end of the day, and rest. It sounded for everyone, those in North Venice, those on the island, those around the general community, and you could actually hear it over in St. Louis in the Hyde Park area, or Madison when the wind was just right. They were dancing. The style was often referred to as swing, and many in Venice learned it from Cleo Wells, the girls' PE instructor. Swing preceded the twist and was much more sensual. The dance came straight from the big band era, but it was perfect for rock and roll. In fact, swing was the last dance where the boy and girl actually held on to each other, touched and moved in unison together. He held her, she held him. The music sent all of us into a sort of swirl while he turned and twisted her around his finger, and she turned the audience around her finger. She was so tiny, so glamorous, and she was like the Pied Piper, leading us every step of the way towards something we weren't really certain of, but which we were just getting the hormones to think about. Even in this moment, for most of us grade school boys, the big deal was still far off. The entire school had gathered, each and every class from high school down through grade school. Many parents had come to watch. Each class had someone in the event doing some sort of presentation.
People ask why this memorial list is needed or important in any way. Our advice and response is that this is, for all of us, our last goodbye to many already forgotten by time, place, and descendants. As we look around, even the Venice cemeteries lay in ruin already, seemingly discarded and unvisited only decades from having been founded. And why should our civilization be different than the Romans, Peruvians, Greeks, or the Egyptians? When our own people died, they looked and trusted in God and those stepping forward to attend to the burial. We buried our dead in sacred cemeteries, but time erodes everything, especially the best of intentions. Still, we continue to try our best. Could it be that that's the real point, that we try? Well, what better way of saying thank you than to remember even as others forget? Perhaps we don't know all the names we see and hear at this point, but these people are a part of us. Those that we didn't know from the earliest days of Venice are the men and women that built the town and handed it on. Those that live on now have built their lives on the back of these people. And that's what they sought for us. It was their gift. Venice was what they handed on as their life's work. Perhaps we don't need to know anything more than that. Across 20 decades, this is our only communion with those that have gone before us. All of us within the town of Venice are a true representation of brotherhood and fellowship. If we have the names and places, we have the obligation. And now in this memorial, we have those items. Sadly, the largest of the old Venice cemeteries, the Catholic and Methodist Cemetery, now lies in total ruins. It is located behind Kirkpatrick Homes or Ridgedale in Granite City. Yes, the Venice Cemetery is located in granite. The whys and wherefores are unknown to us. Here is a picture of the cemetery as it looks today. Only one large marker stands upright today. In the early 1960s, the cemetery was filled with broken, vandalized stones. It was totally neglected. How did this problem come to be? Well, in 1920, during the exchange of official documents turning over the cemeteries to the churches for endowments and continuing development, those involved lost.
Ladies and gentlemen, the story you are about to see is true. The names have been changed to protect the innocent.
The Venice Police Department was started very early in the history of our town. After all, the lawlessness could not be tolerated if the town was to grow. At least that's what they say in the textbooks. However, those who lived in Venice know that it depended upon what kind of lawlessness was being discussed. We'll have more to say about that subject a little later. The picture you are now looking at is circa 1899, with the Chief of Police, George Bennett, who served as chief for 8 years and as Venice Marshal for 13 years. All things considered, the police department did an excellent job of maintaining order in our town, especially in those early days when there was a saloon on almost every corner. Venice was a safe place to grow up in. This applied to all parts of Venice. What we've just said can't be emphasized enough. Venice was a safe place thanks to the efforts of our police department. Individuals to our town. In 1962, he brought this man to our town. Yep, that's former President Harry S. Truman. This photo is a who's who of Madison County politics. It includes Congressman Melvin Price, Doc Lee, Mikey Basalt, Governor Kerner, and many, many others. Who's the man in the sunglasses? The next set of photos are instantly recognized. It's the visit of then Senator John F. Kennedy, campaigning for the presidency in 1960. His speech on the grounds of the Venice-Madison post-307 American Legion is remembered by most Venice residents. Certainly not all public figures were political. Dr. and Mrs. Chalfin are instantly recognized by most former Venice residents. Venice style. While this story is about just a few people, it can be applied to many of our Venice friends. An animal, especially a dog, was very important in our life. My friend had a dog. I had a dog. Mine was a mixed breed mutt terrier. Her name, Trixie. His was a genuine Welsh Corgi. His dog's name was Ricky. Both dogs were special, as only a personal pet dog can ever be to the owner. When a friend's dog died, it was a traumatic event. It was a learning curve for all of us, because for all the friends in that small circle, no one had yet experienced a pet leaving. We called those dogs by their first names and had regular conversations with each pet. His dog, Ricky, named after Ricky Nelson, lived for many years. One day Ricky just got sick. No one knew why or could explain it, and in those days you didn't spend a great deal of cash on the vet to discover why the pet was sick. You just accepted it and hoped for the best. Often the best was to hope for a peaceful and painless death, which to this day I pray happens for all of us. Animals can teach you a lot about life. For both of us, each dog was part best friend and part guard dog. These animals went everywhere with us. The dogs knew each of our friends and never so much as barked when we were all together. We'd camp out in the backyard, as only kids can do, and we'd keep the dogs with us. They guarded us through the dark and mysterious nights as we slept under our blanket tents tossed over the clothesline. With our pets, we had this special arrangement. They were our friends when no other friends could be there. They were our friends when many friends turned their backs on us for some reason or the other. It was beyond faithful and good. It was a real bond. In many ways, we were only repeating what we watched on TV or
the changing of the light, reflections of my life. Oh, how they fill my eyes. We begin with this brief acknowledgement. When we speak of Venice High School, we include all Venice schools ever to have existed, and there were several. But for most of us, the closure of our alma mater marks something different. This ended existence of the place where most of us met and developed. VHS, the last days, the cold winter, the empty rooms, and the desire to remain vital flows wicked like the cold wind blows in the heart of the wretched. Cut down, lowered into its burial vault for future archaeologists, if that's ever to happen. It's now only an afterthought, a footnote, and a memory. It was here that the treasures of our town, the children, were sent to gain a foothold in the new world. For 12 years, most of those kids began their exploration of the new world right here. In many ways, this was our field of dreams. Gone but for the most vague recollections coming from voices echoing among the walls and rooms that are no longer there. Seasons that no longer have any meaning for celebrations, and people whose names become ever more lost to those that follow, and perhaps those still with us that are here in the days of glory. School bands, plays, proms, dances, elections, photos, yearbooks, sports, cheerleaders, valedictorians, study hall, student lounge, manual arts, the 3 R's, teachers, custodians, cooks, second serving, lovers, friends, classmates, ringing the bell in the hall, smoking in the restrooms, hiding in the old gym balcony, sneaking off to the other buildings, FHA, chorus, drama club, recitals, meeting someone you love, all of them.
Across the nation each year, literally tens of thousands of high school athletes gather to compete in their chosen sports endeavors. Their opponents include players they face, coaches, and their own personal complexities. Multiply that by 50 states and several territories, and it's easy to see that we are talking about the aspirations of many children over a long period of time. There are many sports in which kids can compete, but the single biggest challenge may be to understand when the long season comes to an end, winning or losing, life moves forward into another future. Sports, which boys and girls play, range from chess, golf, ping pong, wrestling, tennis, soccer, golf, to the big-time sports of baseball, basketball, and football. We know you get the idea that we're addressing how it is for all high school sports, regardless of where you play and how much you win or lose. In our town, we were all about basketball. Occasionally we noticed baseball, and we did have track and field over all the decades. It was always third among our interest. Each year, kids graduate hoping to be among the chosen few that will obtain sports scholarships and a gateway to the next level of competition, wherever it is. Most kids have the desire to continue playing their beloved sport, but it may turn out to be that the next level will only be the local church league. Spent searching for material on Venice athletics, much of it to no avail. We have gone to the Granite City Public Library and microfished many of the old play papers, but there's really very little evidence of what really transpired. With that, a lot of the early sports were simply conjecture. We have to look at the records, we have to look at the championships. We know a few of the people that were on those teams during the 30s. The guys that were in the 30s, of course, became that generation that Tom Brokaw wrote about and were the leaders of our town during the times that most of us that are still alive were growing up.